Greetings! Today I'm going to examine how the Toshiba Libretto 70CT performs as a native MS-DOS retro gaming laptop. During a recent trip, despite having TSA pre-check which allows me to keep my devices in my backpack, the Libretto triggered an inspection twice at two different airports. But more about my airport adventures later. For now, let's explore this remarkable machine. Back in 1997, as Toshiba dubbed it, the 1.85 pounds phenomenon, the Libretto was one of the smallest full Pentium computers ever released and was priced at just under $2,000. Today, it remains highly sought after by retro computing enthusiasts. Back then, it was truly astounding to imagine such a small design was possible. This compactness came with certain limitations, leading the Libretto to depend on multiple accessories even for basic connectivity. On the rear, there's an infrared receiver, an uncommon 2.5 mini stereo sound output jack. The right side has a single PC card Type 2 slot, a reset button, and an awkwardly placed power connector. It accepts any 15-volt Toshiba power supply from that period, as long as it provides at least 1.4 amps. The 2.5-inch hard drive bay is on the left side, and it doesn't require any adapter or caddy. I'm using a Toshiba compact flash to IDE adapter, and the system detects up to 8 GB. Using larger capacity cards formatted in another system to circumvent the BIOS limitation results in corrupted files. Due to the limited connectivity, a port replicator that mates to the docking connector at the bottom is needed to hook up an external monitor or a mouse. It also exists a larger docking station that provides additional PS2 mouse and keyboard ports. Another significant trade-off is the ergonomics of the 80 keys keyboard, resulting in minuscule keys. The pointing device is meant to be operated with the right thumb, and the mouse buttons are located behind the screen for the index and middle fingers. The 6.1-inch Active Matrix display has a 640 by 480 native resolution. That's exactly twice that of 320 by 240, thus preventing any undesirable stretching when displaying VGA games. It is powered by a passively cooled Intel Pentium 120MHz MMX CPU. The 16MB EDO RAM on board is expandable to 32MB using a proprietary module that is very hard to find these days. Graphics is driven by a 1MB Chipset Technologies HiQ V32 on a 32-bit VESA local bus. Audio is handled by a Yamaha OPL3 SA3 and is fired through a single speaker located above the pointing device. This compact integration was feasible thanks to the proprietary Petunia 2 chipset. But due to space limitations, trade-offs like the absence of a PCI bus and DMA mode were necessary, resulting in the IDE controller to run on the slow 16-bit 8MHz ISA bus. Accessing the BIOS settings upon power up requires holding the escape key followed by the F1 key when prompted. It can be quite fiddly and may take a few attempts. Alternatively, the T-Setup utility can be used. Like with most Toshiba laptops of that era, you can adjust essential settings such as VGA address for MS-DOS memory tuning and text mode stretch for full screen display. Additionally, there are options for Windows Sound System and Sound Blaster settings, along with CPU cache mode settings that can be set to write back or write through. It's worth noting that there is no level 2 cache. Since the BIOS lacks CD-ROM boot support, to install the operating system, you can either use floppy disk only or APC-MCI a CD-ROM drive after prepping the hard disk and loading its driver using the floppy drive. Alternatively, you can set up the main disk and copy the installation files on another computer. Booting with EMM386 and mouse drivers loaded, we get 621 KB of conventional memory. The Libretto does not allow frequency multiplier adjustments, but its Pentium MMX processor allows performance tuning with Setmul by toggling the branch prediction, code cache, data cache, and the V instructions pipeline. By using Setmul with the appropriate flags, CPU performance can be tweaked for specific game requirement. For the SpeedSys benchmark chart, I had to use Norton sysinfo when all caches are disabled because SpeedSys is very inaccurate for scores around 10 and below. For the sake of readability, I omitted overlapping values. The results indicate performance scaling is very gradual and would cover the best DOS gaming years. 3D Bench yields similar results. indicating that with the correct CPU settings, this Libretto has the capability to perform on par with the most significant reference CPUs. For audio, since the Yamaha chip is connected via the ISA bus, you simply need to set the blaster environment variables. Volume is adjusted through the Yamaha Setup SA utility, since there is no physical knob or keys combo. The utility also provides additional settings such as changing IO cues. The sound coming off the tiny speaker is a bit weak. I recommend the use of headphones or external speakers. Like most laptops, there's no hardware wavetable. You can add products such as the MPU-232 for MIDI connectivity or the S2P for wavetable sounds. You will need a 2.5 to 3.5mm adapter and a sound mixer to combine the audio from the Libretto to the external sound module. Thanks to the native screen resolution, there are no dreadful scaling issues to worry about. However, the screen is not very bright. This tiny Toshiba does not disappoint. It ran every game that I threw at it. Sound Blaster compatibility is fantastic with true OPL3 sounds, and CPU-sensitive games such as Wing Commander, Test Drive 3, and Ultima 7 run at playable speeds. It is also powerful enough to run some more demanding games such as Comanche 3, Quake, Blood, and MDK at decent speeds as long as you don't push the settings to the max. This Libretto delivers the versatility to handle DOS games released during the 80s and up to around 1998. Forget about running Windows 98 though, as the amount of RAM doesn't permit an enjoyable experience. I have to point out that the tiny keys are not great for all those games that require extensive keyboard input. Additionally, the pointing device proves challenging for gaming. I highly recommend getting a mouse if you have the port extender. The absence of USB ports makes transferring files onto the Libretto more complicated. To me, the most practical methods are to copy directly to the primary storage, or using a PCMCIA flashcard adapter as a removable drive in Windows. To conclude this review, while the Libretto's compact size makes it such a lovely device, it also hinders it from being my first choice due to inadequate ergonomics, connectivity, and sturdiness. Don't get me wrong though, you should absolutely get one if you have the chance. To me, it's a collectible worth having, and I'm giving it a score of 3.8/5. So, circling back to my airport woes, the Libretto triggered a bag search at both LAX and at LaGuardia. Thankfully, the TSA agents quickly cleared me upon inspection. I wonder if the Libretto is too outdated to be accurately identified by the AI-driven TSA scanners. Anyway, the notion of it is quite amusing. If you have thoughts or opinions on this, please feel free to share them in the comment section. Thank you once again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd highly appreciate if you give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future reviews.